Hi friends, how are you doing today? I'm so sorry that I haven't uploaded a video in a really long time. I've been going through some really tough times, and thankfully, I think I'm starting to get back on my feet again. And I can't express how thankful I am to my friends who helped me, listen to me, and just I don't know who were there for me during this really tough period. I don't think I could have gotten back on my feet so quickly if not for them. And yeah, so hopefully you'll start seeing more frequent videos from me again. Okay, so today I want to revisit a snippet of history and tell the story of a woman that I think was once hidden in a history predominantly written and told by men. Many of you may have heard of Wu Zetian, who was on paper the only female emperor in Chinese history. But in practice, there were many periods of time when women were the de facto bosses. And today I want to introduce you to one of these women, Empress Yang from Southern Song dynasty. Empress Yang was the wife of Emperor Ningzong, and when Ningzong died, she became Dowager Empress during the reign of Emperor Li near the end of the Southern Song dynasty. Unlike many empresses who come from really strong family backgrounds, she came from an interesting and ambiguous family background. And it's likely that her family origins were purposely omitted from court chronicles. And we don't even know for certain what her original name was. From anecdotes and accounts recorded from Southern Song scholars, she was the daughter of Madame Zhang, an accomplished female musician employed at the Cifu Palace of then Empress Dowager Wu. Madame Zhang's ability as a musician earned her the position of chief musician, and along with it, she earned the personal admiration of Empress Wu. Now, Empress Wu, who was the wife of Gaozong, but who outlived him by quite a few reigns, was very powerful during most of these ensuing reigns. And she was also quite a legendary figure, but we'll save her story for another time. When Madame Zhang, the musician, died, leaving behind a beautiful and talented daughter, Empress Wu took the daughter in. 11 or 12-year-old at the time, Yang Meizi, translated to little sister Yang, became known as the little darling of Cifu Palace. We're unsure of who Yang Meizi's father was, but it's plausible that Yang, which was her surname when she became the protege of Empress Wu, originates from her being placed in the care of Yang Cairen when she first entered the palace. Now, Cairen is a concubine rank that's pretty low on the concubine food chain. Yang Cairen would have oversaw Yang Meizi's well-being and training as a little girl, and this corroborates what we know about how young girls were raised in the palaces. Anyway, so Yang Meizi was taken in by Empress Dowager Wu, and all sources agree that Empress Wu was charmed by and favored her. Yang Meizi also caught the eye of then Crown Prince and future Emperor Ningzong. Seeing this, Empress Wu presented Yang Meizi to the Crown Prince and said, "Take her, but in my honor, cherish her tenderly." This story was probably embellished to justify her rise to power, as ladies who lacked strong family backgrounds were reliant on an emperor's favor or on the support of a powerful female patron. So for Yang Meizi, it was important to, through storytelling, move from the sphere of low-ranking Yang Cairen to the sphere of Empress Wu. As I mentioned before, though, all sources do agree that Empress Wu did favor Yang Meizi. So we don't know for sure how much of these stories are exaggerations. But I don't even think that question matters too much, because if anything, I take from these stories that Yang Meizi, or Empress Yang, was politically apt and knew how to use stories to bolster her legitimacy, and that she recognized the importance of establishing connections with and belonging to a lineage of powerful Song imperial women. Yang Meizi was also politically astute in that after gaining significant power as an empress, she made efforts to promote Empress Wu's relatives in order to express gratitude. And she did become empress pretty quickly. In year 1195, just 1 year after Ningzong became emperor in 1194, she received her first honorary title. In 1196, just 1 year after, she was promoted to Jieyu, which is consort of third rank. In 1199, she got promoted to Wanyi, and in 1200, she was promoted to Guifei, noble consort, which was the highest title a secondary wife could attain. So at this point, as a secondary wife, she has reached a glass ceiling of sorts. Now, Empress Wu who was Yang Meizi's mentor, also passed away in year 1197. So in theory, she would have lost a very powerful ally. But again, indicative of her political skill, according to one record, Yang Meizi sent eunuchs on a secret search for a respectable family with which she could forge affiliations. The search led to Yang Shan, who was from the locality in Zhejiang province from which Yang Meizi also claimed origins. He was an able official and belonged to a military family with a glorious history, which was convenient because it was a tradition during Song Dynasty that empresses were chosen from families with military backgrounds. So soon after Empress Dowager Wu died in year 1197, Yang Zishan was summoned to the palace and had a reunion with his long-lost sister, Yang Meizi. This was a win-win situation because Yang Zishan got to become an imperial relative and as a result received numerous promotions, and Yang Meizi got to be affiliated with a respected military family. Her new family allies proved to be useful very quickly. 9 months after her promotion to Guifei, Ningzong's official wife passed away. So now the two people who enjoyed imperial favor and who had the best chances to become the new empress were Yang Meizi and Cao Meiren, which translates to beauty Cao. Cao Meiren had the support of the powerful prime minister Han Tuozhou. To get an idea of how powerful Han Tuozhou was, quoting from Richard Davis in his book Court and Family in Song China, although never officially appointed chief counselor, Han Tuozhou nevertheless functioned as one. From 1197 to 1207, he reigned as undisputed decision-maker at court, the sole formulator of government policy, arbiter of bureaucratic disputes, and shepherd of official advancement. Han Tuozhou wanted Cao Meiren to become the next empress because he saw her as a submissive, easily manipulatable person. So you now get an idea of what kind of crazily strong opponent Yang Meizi was up against. And yet, not only did she achieve the title of empress in year 1202, probably due to a combination of her accomplishments in calligraphy and her knowledge of history, as well as her having borne the emperor 2 sons, she actually managed to eradicate Han Tuozhou in year 1207. Now, Emperor Ningzong is described in historical sources as both physically and mentally weak, a man of fragile health and questionable mental faculties. Further, records have described him using adjectives like humane, mature, but never is he referred to as intelligent. An anecdote from 1298 saying, "Some say that Emperor Ningzong was not intelligent and had a slowness of speech," corroborates this. In contrast, Empress Yang was intelligent, talented, and, quoting from a paper by Hui-Shu Lee, a remarkably astute wielder of power at court. In fact, historical evidence strongly suggests that she was the one who represented the true power at the throne. There's probably no better illustration of Empress Yang's political astuteness than her eradication of Han Tuozhou in year 1207. In addition to Yang Zishan, Empress Yang cultivated an ally in Zhao Xun, or it might be Zhao Yan. See my footnote in the video description. Because Ningzong's sons all died in infancy, he had to adopt outside his direct line. Zhao Xun entered the palace when Yang Meizi was still a concubine, and because Yang nurtured Zhao's interest in the arts, they developed a close bond. In year 1205, Zhao Xun was declared an imperial son and 2 years later designated heir apparent. Zhao showed loyalty to Empress Yang when in year 1207, he condemned Han Tuozhou's foreign policy initiative to initiate a renewed offensive against the Jurchen armies. Han Tuozhou called this initiative Expedition for Recovering the North, and the results on the battlefields were horrendous. In fact, a Jurchen condition for peace was the head of the man who initiated the war. Now, infuriated by this condition, Han Tuozhou wanted to escalate hostilities, but Empress Yang talked to the emperor in private, while Zhao Xun denounced Han Tuozhou in public. Yang Zishan, who was Empress Yang's other strong ally, also helped organize reliable allies from among prominent officials. In November 1207, Han Tuozhou was intercepted on his way to court, dragged to the imperial garden, and bludgeoned to death. According to an account, Han did not believe it when he was told that the order came from the emperor's brush, because he had been the one who had been forging the imperial brush in the past. However, Han did not seem to know that by 1207, imperial consents were almost all written by Empress Yang. And this leads to the last point I want to bring up here, which is Empress Yang's calligraphy. This topic and its relation to her artistic collaborations with famous court painters Ma Yuan and Ma Ling should probably get a video of its own. There are just so many fascinating points of discussion there. But here, germane to this discussion, is the point that almost as a reflection of who had the brains and powers at the court, it is now known that Ningzong's calligraphy skills were not so great, showing weak brushwork described as loose and shaky. In contrast, Empress Yang's characteristic character compositions were tight and assured, her brushwork fleshy and sensuous. Interestingly, but honestly unsurprisingly, there had been a lot of confusion among historians regarding identification of Empress Yang's calligraphy, in no small part due to the long-standing bias that quality be associated with the male hand. How strong is this bias? Ma Ling's painting, Fragrant Spring After Rain, bears the Empress's seal, and yet some scholars suggested that the short poetic title on it was penned by Emperor Ningzong because the inscription possessed an unmistakably masculine character. That's right. So even when her seal was right there, scholars rejected the idea that this was a woman's writing. Up until recently, it seems Chinese history has been predominantly examined within the confines of a patriarchal construct. Under this gaze, failures of male leadership were linked with the ascendancy of women. Under this gaze, an empress's calligraphy became mistaken for that of her emperor husband, who it is presumed must have been the better writer. It is only when we switch to a pair of gendered spectacles that we can re-examine our causal conclusions and entertain the suggestion that perhaps male leadership failed despite, rather than as a result of, the ascendancy of women who handled their duties with strength and wisdom, or perhaps even that the weakness of male leadership presented a need for imperial women to step up. One amazing scholar whose work inspired and informed this video is Professor Hui-Shu Lee, a professor at UCLA. I've listed her works, which I referenced in the video description below, in case you hope to learn more about this topic and read her work. I definitely did not do the best job summarizing the story of Empress Yang, and Professor Lee's work is a much better, more informative, better articulated read. So I really do hope that you check her works out. But I do hope that my video maybe sparks some discussion, some Googling, and perhaps some reflection on how some things we may see as objectively true in the world are merely projections through our own subjective lenses. And with that, thank you for watching and see you next time.